Hi, I'm Pattu from FreeFinCal, and in this video, let's take a look at the second NFO offer from Motilal Oswal, the Motilal Oswal Nifty Midcap 150 Index, and ask if this is worth investing. Yesterday, we looked at the Nifty 500 Index from the same AMC, and we talked about how at least in my opinion, investors are better off with Nifty 50. What about this fund? In my opinion, there's only a single question that investors should ask: whether they should invest in this fund, given, of course, not immediately, given enough time and having a look at its AUM and expense ratio, tracking error, and so on, or invest in the Nifty Next 50. Either continue investing or invest afresh in the Nifty Next 50. That's the essential question, in my opinion. So let's talk about that. So this is the second mid-cap index fund. This is not the first mid-cap index fund, as I don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Principal AMC ran the Nifty Mid-Cap 100 index, the mid-cap index fund for a very short while between 2014 to 2017. Then they made it into the Nifty 100 equal weight. That's another story. Don't invest in that fund. So let's take a look at, let's evaluate Nifty Midcap with compare it with Nifty Next 50, and also look at how the active funds have performed with respect to this index. So this has got 150 stocks. So out of the Nifty 500, you remove the top 100, which is the large cap, supposedly large cap. You remove the bottom 250, which is the small cap, and you're left with the middle 150, which are the so-called mid-cap index fund. Of course, it's a very arbitrary definition. There's nothing, there's no fine line that says that's small cap, this is mid-cap, and so on. It's all pretty much arbitrary. All right, so let's take a look at the fund performance. So what we will do is, this is so we're going to compare rolling returns of Nifty 100, the red line. The blue line is Nifty Midcap 150, the black line is Nifty Small Cap 250, and the green line is Nifty Next 50 TRI, Total Returns Index. So this was published a few months ago. The rolling returns are there. Each line has got 2,156 5-year return data points. The primary message from this graph and the following one, which is for 7 years, is that don't expect, just because it's a small mid-cap index, don't expect it to always outshine the large cap index like Nifty 100 or Nifty Next 50. It's typically it's always not been an outperformer. The index itself has not been. It is more or less given on par returns with Nifty Next 50, and sometimes even on par or less than par returns compared to the Nifty 100. So you have to be ready for it mentally. It's not easy to be ready for it. People talk a lot about passive investing, this and that, and then so on. Most investors who are excited about passive investing have no idea, have no clarity about the temperament required for passive investing. I'm fairly confident about that. Otherwise, they will not be worried about why Nifty Next 50 is falling now. So that's the first lesson. Don't expect it to outshine your large cap index. Now, that's, like I said, the only question to ask is it a replacement for Nifty Next 50? So let's take a look about a comparison of these two. So what you have here is the 5-year rolling return of just the Nifty Midcap 150, which is the blue line, and the yellow line, which is the Nifty Next 50. Notice that they are pretty much comparable. You don't expect the Nifty Midcap 150 to typically outperform the Nifty Next 50. That's just has not happened. Maybe when there is some extra bull run or something like that, extraordinary bull run, for a short while it does. But other than that, typically it has been comparable. This is over 5 years, and if you look at the standard deviation, that is, you look at the rolling volatility, or how much the monthly returns of the Nifty Next 50 and the Nifty Midcap 150 deviate from the average monthly return. Those are the lines. Higher the line, higher the risk. And they are pretty much comparable. Because the Nifty Midcap has got 150 stocks, the standard deviation is a little bit lower. That's it. So nothing to shout home about. So don't worry about it. This is over 10 years. Again, over 10 years, you can see Nifty Midcap 150 has not outperformed Nifty Next 50 at all over these 1088 10-year data points. That's So I don't see any reason to ditch my Nifty Next 50 fund if I'm investing in it. I am not. If I'm investing in it, there's no reason for me to ditch that and choose mid cap. There's no reason for me to add. I don't particularly see why I should add Nifty mid cap in addition to, let's say I have Nifty 50, Nifty Next 50. Why should I add Nifty mid cap 150? Probably it will bring down the portfolio risk overall, but I wouldn't recommend doing it. I don't particularly see any benefit in terms of return, so I wouldn't recommend doing it. So again, this is the 10-year standard deviation, rolling standard deviation. The mid cap fund is a little bit lower, but that's to be expected. It's not such a significant benefit that to favor that in instead of Nifty Next 50. So far we have seen that the Nifty Next 50 is a better, if not a replacement, it's actually a better index than the Nifty Mid Cap 150 in terms of volatility, in terms of reward. So pretty much comparable at best, or at times Nifty Next 50 has outperformed. Now, if you compare Nifty Mid Cap 150 with the active mutual funds, mid cap funds, because the reason is, in the AMCs will sell mid caps and small caps by saying they are under researched, it's easy to beat them and so on. So I have taken my August 2019 screener and I've compared 23 mid cap funds with this mid cap 150 index, and if I demand 70% return outperformance, that is for every possible 5-year period, the active fund should have bet the Nifty Mid Cap 150 at least 70% of the time or more. Then if I do that, if I demand that, immediately the 23 becomes 10 funds. There's a reduction in number. If I demand the same 70% outperformance over 4 years, that 10 becomes 4 funds. Then if I demand 70% outperformance over 3 years, then it just becomes 2 active funds. I'm not telling you which those 2 active funds are. You'll have to get the screener for that. But this is pathetic. This is the reason I said we need a mid cap and small cap index earlier. What I did not realize at that time was we already had one. The Nifty Next 50 is the answer. That's a good enough mid cap and small cap index fund substitute, in my opinion. There's no particular need for another one for that. That's something that I did not realize at that point. So, should you invest in this mid cap 150? Well, you can invest. Some people don't listen. They will always say they will invest. You can invest, but whatever it is, don't immediately jump in, because it's a 150 stock index. It's not easy to manage an index fund in the mid cap space. The tracking error is expected to be higher than Nifty 50 index funds. You have to look at how well it is tracking. You will have to look at the AUM, how many people will be sold this fund. Not direct investors won't buy. Regular plan investors will have to be shout this fund up their mouth as whatever it is. So it's not, we don't know how much AUM is going to come from this fund. I don't understand what is this big logic from Motilal Oswal launching 4 funds. I mean, this is just spreading yourself too thin. Have one fund, one NFO every 6 months is okay. I don't know what their logic is. It beats me. Anyway, so again, you can have a look at. I have talked about Nifty Next 50. I'm fairly sure that there's no need for existing Nifty Next 50 investors to either replace this fund with Nifty with the mid cap 150, or add mid cap 150 in addition to the Nifty Next 50. There's no need for that. Stick to your Nifty Next 50. I've talked about how to combine Nifty Next 50 and Nifty to create large cap, mid cap kind of portfolios. I've talked about don't make the mistake of assuming just because a ETF has got lower expense ratio is it better than an index fund. With respect to Nifty Next 50, I'd also talked about, I've compared the performance of Reliance